The new AP Top 25 in basketball is crazy. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day, but sometimes I do college basketball videos, which is what this is. So, whether you agree with me, want to talk trash with me, or talk trash to me, you're going to enjoy this channel. The first thing I want to do is conference by conference breakdown of who's in the top 25. What makes up the top 25 for this week? Let's run through it. The Pac-12. No teams in the top 25. They suck in basketball. The West Coast Conference, the WCC, the good old WCC, they have one team in the top 25, and they just happen to be the #1 team in the nation, Gonzaga. The Mountain West. No teams in the top 10, but one team in the top 25, San Diego State. The Big East. Remember when the Big East was the conference? Well, they're still pretty good, but not the conference. Two teams in the top 10, and that's Villanova and Creighton, but those are the only two teams in the entire 25 from the Big East. The AAC, only one team in the top 25, but they're also in the top 10, and that's Houston. Then we go to the Power Fives. The SEC, they have one top 10, that's Tennessee, but two altogether in the top 25, Tennessee, Missouri. Here's where it really gets interesting. The Big 12 has three top 10 teams, Baylor, Kansas, and West Virginia, and five altogether in the top 25, so those three plus Texas and Texas Tech. Then we have the ACC. No teams in the top 10, but 6 teams in the top 25. You have Louisville, Clemson, Florida State, Virginia, North Carolina, Duke. Big fallers, but they're still in. Last but not least, the Big Ten. 2 in the top 10, and that's Iowa and Michigan State, and they're actually in the top 5. Iowa's at 3, Michigan State is 4. Altogether, the Big Ten has 7. Illinois, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Ohio State, Michigan, plus Iowa and Michigan State. So that's the conference by conference breakdown of the new AP Top 25 in college basketball. Let's look at the actual teams and what we're looking at. It gets interesting right off the bat at number 25, Michigan. Why is that interesting? They're 6-0 undefeated. Well, the thing is, they were in the top 25 at the beginning of the season, but got knocked out of the top 25, even though they didn't lose. They got knocked out when they beat Oakland in overtime, 81-71. They got knocked out of the top 25. Well, now they're back in, and they're still undefeated. They have wins over Penn State, Toledo, UCF, and then 3 other, BS schools. So, Michigan, number 25. Number 24, Clemson. They're undefeated. Clemson hasn't been in the top 25 in a while. They're 5-0. They come up from non-ranked. Wins over Mississippi State, Purdue, South Carolina State, Maryland, and Alabama. I know not all of those names are top-notch in basketball, but, at least you know who they are. Number 23, Louisville. They're also 4-0. They rise up 2 spots. First game, they avoid what Kentucky did last year, and they do beat Evansville, Seton Hall, Prairie View, and Western Kentucky. So nothing to brag about, but they do avoid the upset by Evansville, which Kentucky was not able to do last year, if y'all remember. The big fallers. Number 22, North Carolina. From last week, they fell 6 spots. Something that you need to take into consideration. College basketball is different than college football as far as rankings week to week, because sometimes you have multiple games between rankings. College football is one game. You either go up or you down because you win or lose. College basketball, multiple games. So maybe you barely lose to a great team and then blow out, a halfway decent team. Do they go up or down and stay the same? It's weird. North Carolina fell 6 spots. Overall, they're 4-2. Their losses are to quality opponents, though. I will say that. They lost to Texas and Iowa. Their wins include College of Charleston, UNLV, Stanford, and North Carolina Central. So, not great wins, and they lose to their only halfway decent competition. The biggest faller of the week. Number 21, Duke. They fell 11 spots. They are 2-2 overall. They've only played 4 games. They beat Coppin State and Bellarmine. Never even heard of the second one. And they lost to Michigan State and Illinois. So the 2 halfway decent teams that they played, they lost. That's why they fell 11 spots. Number 20, Ohio State. They're undefeated. Illinois State, UMass Lowell, Morehead State, Notre Dame, and Cleveland State. And Cleveland State scared Ohio State a little bit. But Ohio State still undefeated. They rise 2 spots. Number 19, Rutgers, 4-0. Sacred Heart, Farley Dickinson, Hofstra, Syracuse, nothing to brag about. Number 18, San Diego State. Wins over UC Irvine, St. Catherine, Pepperdine, and Arizona State. Arizona State was ranked, but they're not any good, so nothing to brag about. They do get a win over UCLA. They were ranked as well. Number 17, Virginia. They're 3-1. They rose 1 spot. Their loss to San Francisco. That was a huge upset. Wins over Towson, St. Francis, Pennsylvania, and Kent State. So Virginia hasn't proved anything. Number 16, Missouri. Now, on the rankings, it said they rose 10 spots, but really they were just non-ranked. So they were they ranked number 26? Is that what you were saying? 5-0. Beat Oregon, Wichita State, Liberty, and Illinois, and Oral Roberts. So that win over Illinois is what catapulted them 10 spots to number 16. Number 15, Florida State. They're undefeated as well, 3-0. Wins over North Florida, Indiana, and Florida. So those last 2 wins, Indiana and Florida, not bad. Number 14, Texas Tech, 1 loss. That 1 loss was to Houston, who is ranked in the top 10, 64-53. Their wins, Northwestern State, Sam Houston State, Troy, Grambling State, Abilene Christian, and Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. So nothing to hang your hat on. Number 13, Illinois. They're 4-2, 2 losses. They were a top 5 team, but they lost to Baylor and Missouri. Both of those teams are pretty good, but you're not a top 10 team if you can't beat good teams. They have wins over North Carolina A&T, Chicago State, Ohio, and Duke. Duke sounds like a good win, but when you go back and listen to what I just said about them, not that great of a win right now. Number 12, Wisconsin. They're only lost to Marquette. Wins over Eastern Illinois, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Green Bay, and Rhode Island. So they don't have a lot of great wins as well. Number 11, Texas. These guys are climbing and climbing. Their only loss was to Villanova, 68-64, and Villanova is always a good team. Wins over Rio Grande Valley, Davidson, Indiana, North Carolina, and Texas State. So even though North Carolina fell, one of those reasons was because Texas beat them. Now we're getting into the top 10. Tennessee, 2-0. Wins over Colorado and Cincinnati. They've had to cancel a bunch of games, but they have found their way into the top 10. Number 9, Creighton. They're 4-1. Their only loss was to Kansas by 1 point. Other than that, wins over North Dakota State, Omaha, Kent State, Nebraska. So I'm not impressed with their resume so far. Number 8, my team, West Virginia, 6-1. Our only loss was to the number 1 team in the nation, 87-82 Gonzaga. Besides that, wins over South Dakota State, VCU, Western Kentucky, Georgetown, North Texas, and our staple win so far, number 19, Richmond. We pounded them 87-71. It wasn't even close. So, yeah, I think West Virginia has proven they're a top 10 team. Staple win against Richmond, and have played Gonzaga the best out of anybody so far, including Kansas. Number 7, Villanova. Their only loss was to Virginia Tech, 81-73. That's a head-scratcher. But their wins over Boston College, Arizona State, Hartford, Texas, and Georgetown. So a good win over Texas. I mentioned that earlier. Number 6, Houston. They're undefeated 4-0. Wins Lamar, Boise State, Texas Tech. That's a good win. And South Carolina. South Carolina can be tricky. Top 5. Number 5, Kansas. Their only loss was to Gonzaga. They lost to Gonzaga by 12 points. West Virginia only lost by 5 points. I think West Virginia should be ranked higher than Kansas. But Kansas is Kansas. They've beaten St. Joseph's, Kentucky, who's not any good. They fell out of the rankings completely. Washburn, North Dakota State, Creighton. That's a good win. I'll give you that. And then Omaha. But I think as far as resume to resume, West Virginia is a little bit better. But you know what? 3 spots higher. I'm not going to whine too much. Number 4, Michigan State. Undefeated. They have a win over Oakland, Eastern Michigan, Notre Dame, Duke. Sounds like a great win, but it's not looking like it right now. Detroit Mercy, and Western Michigan. Some of these names I have never, ever heard of. Number 3, Iowa. Iowa is impressive. They got 1 first-place vote. They're 6-0. They're number 3 in the nation. Wins over Northern Illinois, North Carolina Central, Southern, Western Illinois, North Carolina, and Iowa State. Number 2, Baylor, and they are the beast out of the Big 12, but they're going to have to contend with Kansas and West Virginia. That's going to be a tough upper echelon for the Big 12. They have 7 first-place votes. They're 4-0. Wins over Louisiana, Washington, Illinois, which seemed like a good win at the time, still might be, and Stephen F. Austin. And, of course, the number 1 team in the nation, Gonzaga, 54 first place votes to 3-0, so not a big resume, but a lot of punch to that resume. Win over Kansas, Auburn, and West Virginia. West Virginia put up a good fight, had control of that game late in the second half, but let it slip away, and Gonzaga did win by 5. But West Virginia showed me a little something in that game. So there's your recap of the new college basketball AP Top 25. Let me know what you think in the comments. Who you think should be where in the rankings. Who should be in, who should be out, who's too high, who's too low. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.